Welcome back to Adobe Illustrator CC. This is a continuation of the Web Mobile series. This is part 4 in this series. So we have here a map of Lansing Community College where I teach, which is kind of an aerial view here. Let me zoom in here a little bit, and you can see everything could be done with simple shapes, simple shape construction for each part. So you could work this way, and this is very primitive. I'm going to show you a little bit better one. This is Cal State East Bay, which has some, again, interesting shapes or design. Again, it's sort of aerial view, so if you want to work that way, you can. That's sort of the easiest way to work. However, probably a more interesting way would be through some perspective or orthographic view, where you see an edge and an edge of something. And so this is from my where I graduated as a BFA from Sonoma State. This is their map, and you can see it has sort of a perspective view. It's kind of interesting, and basically what you could imagine is the top being a separate shape, the left side being a separate shape, and the right side being a separate shape. Now, this map has a lot more detail in between all those little parts, so you can basically take it as far as you want, depending on if you're going to do something fantastical. Again, the map doesn't have to be real. It could be an imagined place, so it could be completely fantastical and unusual. So I'm just selecting the top layer here. I just add a new layer. These other layers are locked down and turned off. And I'm just going to show you different ways to create shapes. Now I want to do this. First, I'm going to use sort of the standard tools, and then I'll show you how to use the grid to do some other things. So actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and turn on the view grid anyways. Under the view menu, you have down here towards the bottom, show grid, and basically we have a grid here. And under view, you'll notice I have smart guides checked and I have snap to grid checked. I don't know if you can see that, but it's right at the very bottom here. So what that allows me to do is when I draw the shape here with the shape tools, and I'm going to hold the mouse down on this tool and go to the tear out bar. So these are all the shape tools minus the flare. Ignore that one. Then we have, I'm going to use some other tools here. I'm going to use the eraser tool and the knife tool. So I'm holding the mouse down, going out to the edge there. And let's see, we'll go to the warp tool or shape builder tool here. So mouse down, move that out. And then finally, the warp tools here, kind of mouse down. So we're going to go through a lot of different tools here. But essentially your shape tools, as you draw them out, you can see it's snapping to the grid in increments, right? And if you hold shift key, any of these shapes will basically square out. So if I'm doing a rounded rectangle, as I hold the shift key, it'll be kind of square. If I drag out, it'll be kind of rectangle. If you hit the up arrow or down arrow, it tends to do something as you're drawing out. So for this one, the rounded rectangle reduces the roundness or increases it on the fly. Okay. With the polygonal tools, essentially if I hit up arrow, you get more polygons points. Down arrow, you get less. So you can go down to a triangle essentially. The star tool, pretty much the same. You can go up arrow or down arrow as I'm drawing out until I release. Okay, so you can create your basic shapes that way. You can also create your basic shapes using the pin tool. So if I click any points along here, which is really cool because the snapping, it's real easy to kind of create very geometric kind of shapes very easily. So those are all your tools on how to create the individual shapes, right? You got your pin tool and then all the shape tools, and then the white arrow allows you to manipulate those points, right? So you can click on a point, and usually have to click on it again to activate it to move any of these points. So you can click once and then click again, and then you can move it. And since I have snapping on it, it's going to snap to the grid. And then you have these little circles which you can round off. So that's one way to create round corners very easily on a shape. Okay. The next step is how do we manipulate it further? Well, you have all these other shape tools. Now the warp tools are pretty self-explanatory. Basically as you click, you warp it. So if you want really crazy organic looking kind of shapes like the twirl tool here, the bloat tool, the pinch and so forth, you can try them out. They're really goofy. I mean, there's not any natural sort of building that would probably have any of those characters. So just realize that with the warp tools, okay? So I'll move those down. The shape builder tool is actually really useful. Let me show you how that works. So if I drag two shapes together like this, and let me just change the color just so it's easy to see. So I have two shapes. I'm going to drag a rectangular marquee over both, and then grab the shape builder tool, which has a hotkey of Shift M. As I hover over it, you'll see a plus. So if I drag across all three of these, it'll unite that and become one unique shape. Okay. If I undo by hitting Control Z or Command Z, if I hold down Alt or Option, I get a minus. So if I get a minus, I can subtract anything. Obviously, if I subtract the outside, it's just going to be the square. What if I subtract the center here? We have sort of an opening there, and I can subtract that, and you can see how you can get these cookie cutter kind of effects with the shape builder that allows you to create very unique shapes. So if I drag a marquee over those two, and again use that shape builder tool, and hold Option to subtract. You can have some really unique shapes. This one maybe I'll do. I'll just combine them by dragging straight across. And it would be very difficult to create a shape like this, right? That would have all these different kind of features on the fly. I'll subtract that one, and again I'll just hold Alt or Option to subtract, and voila. Now I got this crazy unique shape that, by my own manipulation with the white arrow and black arrow, it'd be really difficult to create this unusual shape. One thing I want to say about the pin tool, the pin tool does allow, when you select the shape, to add more points or to subtract points. You'll see a plus or a minus as you get close to these points, unless you're at the starting point. But basically, if I click here, I've essentially added a point. I've added a point here. Whoops. So that one I added not on the shape. Now, one way to get around that is to isolate the shape by double clicking on it. And then when you go into isolation mode, usually it'll allow you to add points and subtract points. So yeah. So you can come around here and subtract any of these and then add additional ones. Let's see. But usually that's done with the pin tool when you're creating it, not so much with the shape itself. So the other ones that are really fun is the eraser tool. So say you want something that has like a circle missing from the center, boom, you got that done. Maybe you want a rounded kind of edge there, boom, it's done. Now realize that right now nothing is selected. If I had this shape selected and I try to erase this, it's not erasing. So it'll only select what's selected or what if nothing is selected. So if I click out, nothing is selected. And then if I have shapes that are stacked, so let me add a color here, and I double click, I put in isolation mode and use that eraser tool. Like I can hold the Shift key to draw out straight edge lines. And so now you'll see I didn't erase the shape below if I double click out. Isolation mode allows you to basically manipulate the shape without manipulating the shape below it. One other tool that's really great is the knife tool. Knife tool will give you extremely crazy organic kind of selections. The trick with it is to go all the way into the shape and all the way out. You don't have to actually connect it, but just by doing that you kind of get the effect. Actually, you do have to connect it, my bad. So once I get to the end there, oh, I know why it's not working. I have the shape selected here. So let's deselect, not have anything selected, and then try that again. So as I draw out here, I don't have to have it connected, watch. I'll just release, and you can see now that I can double click on this and isolate this shape and take it out like a cookie cutter. Yeah, so perfect example. If you have something selected, again, even the knife tool, you can't select something else. So that's what was going on here. I was trying to, cut away this. Nothing was happening. Of course, if I cut away here, it works, right? So, because this one was selected. Double click out, and now they're two separate shapes. So knife tool is really cool for creating custom shapes. You want to be aware though, you don't have to go super crazy. Like all these shapes are kind of crazy. You could do something very subtle with these shapes. So let me show you something a little more subtle. So I'll draw a rectangle, and then maybe another rectangle, and then maybe another rectangle here. So like thinking like an aerial view of a city, right? Where the buildings, some parts are sort of connected like this. And then using that shape builder tool, again, which has a hotkey of Shift M, and just adding the plus to drag out. And now I have something that's quite, more natural and less crazy, right? In terms of its construction. And it doesn't have to, again, too radical. Now I could use maybe another rectangle. Maybe I want part of the building that's been carved out here. And so maybe there's a little area here again with this tool. This is probably the way I would go about it if I was going to do cities, just to carve out something like that, and create more of a sort of step sort of shape here. So basically, once you have all your shapes generated using these shape tools, then we can get to the fun part, which is the next tutorial on how to combine them together. But think tops and then think sides if you want to add a side. You can do sides with just a simple rectangle, though, and I'm going to show you how to do that in the next tutorial. So until next time, see you soon at Illustrator CC. Cheers!